Welcome to Samuel Zwemer Theological Seminary. We're looking at the great theologian Wolfhart Pannenberg. Pannenberg was born on the 2nd of October 1928 in Stettin, Germany, which is now a part of Poland. Pannenberg has been known as a German Christian theologian. His emphasis has been on the history of the Revelation and on the doctrine of the resurrection of Christ. Pannenberg's story begins when he was baptized as an infant as an evangelical Lutheran church. When he became at the age of 16, he had a tremendous sense of religious experience. This religious experience propelled him to search out the meaning of this experience. One of his high school teachers had encouraged him to take a hard look at Christianity, which resulted in Pannenberg's conversion to the Christian faith, as he sees the only real option to a meaning to life. Pannenberg developed as a theologian, and he developed his epistemology, which was influenced by Edmund Schlink, who said that there were two types of truth: analogical truth, which is descriptive truth, and doxological truth, which is a kind of truth through immanence in worship. It was this influence of doxological truth that helped Pannenberg to develop his theology, and it was influenced in ecumenical theology by Edmund Schlink. Pannenberg went on to develop his understanding of Revelation, which was influenced by Karl Barth and George Frederick Hegel, and also by reading Jewish apocalyptic literature. The idea of Hegel's understanding of history as an unfolding process in the spirit and freedom is something that captured Pannenberg. Pannenberg adopts the Hegelian understanding of history itself as a God's revelation, but he focuses it with an understanding of the resurrection of Christ as a proleptic revelation of what history is unfolding. Pannenberg's ideas met with a bit of a backlash by neo-Orthodox and liberal theologians and Bultmannian theologians in the 1960s. Jürgen Bultmann, also influenced by left Hegelians, Marx and Ernest Bloch, also reacted against Pannenberg. Bultmann, of course, elaborating a theology of hope. Pannenberg is best known for his book Jesus, God and Man. His Christology is from below, again emphasizing the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. He rejects the Chalcedonian two natures of Christ, preferring the person of Christ to be understood in reference to the resurrection. So those are just some thoughts about Pannenberg. His systematic theology, which is 3 volumes, also needs to be noted, which is really an expansion of his Jesus, God, Man book. What do we have to say about Pannenberg then? What are the lessons that we can learn about his theology? Again, as evangelicals, we don't agree with his Christology. We don't agree with these sort of basic principles about the Christian faith in those terms. I would definitely follow Chalcedon. I think that is an excellent understanding of who Christ is. I also think that Pannenberg and modern theology needs to get back to the Chalcedonian definitions of who Christ is. But having said that, one of the strengths of Pannenberg is that he does emphasize the historicity of the resurrection of Christ, and he does challenge theologians to think seriously about history and how that points to the truth of Christianity. His book, Systematic Theology, is a really interesting and helpful book. His book on Christology is helpful, although when you start to read it you have to be careful because he's using his own categories about church history, and they're not necessarily evangelical categories. But he is a theologian that will help you to think. There's some lovely letters between him and Karl Barth, and Karl Barth is quite angry at just thinks Pannenberg is completely wasting his time emphasizing the importance of history and the importance of the resurrection of Christ. So pull out those letters because they're interesting. And I think it is true to say that the Christian faith is based in history. It's based in true history, and we have to realise that's important, and Pannenberg has done a good job in getting people to realise that. He also has challenged the academic world to realise that theology has significant things to contribute in philosophy and science. So those are just a few things about Pannenberg. Again, you have to be very careful as a Christian thinker not to be taken in by Pannenberg. He isn't evangelical, he's not Orthodox Christian in that sense. But having said that, he has some really interesting things to say, and he can be a helpful corrective on his issues about the history of the resurrection, as opposed to a lot of liberal and neo-Orthodox and post-Barthian thinkers who think that that's not important. So thank you for listening, and this is Jason Burns of Samuel Zwemer Theological Seminary. God bless you.